Welcome back to Boys and Ghouls Film Review, folks. I'm your host, Sarah Stephenson. This is my co-host, Mike Stephenson.
Hi, guys.
And tonight we'll be reviewing Crimson Peak that was released in 2015, I think.
Yep. It's listed as a gothic romance film. It was marketed, I believe, as a horror film. But it has touches of gothic in it, obviously. It's been gothic. And it has touches of horror in it. So, yeah. And you put gothic and horror together, you can get a good story.
Yeah. This is the sort of gothic-y movie that I wish the invitation movie would have been like.
Exactly.
If they went in that general direction.
Anyway, this one's been done by, here we go, produced by Guillermo del Toro. We did a movie series recently, The Shape of the Water?
And we did the Scary Tales in the Dark, which he produced.
Yep.
And let me see. Well, I think he did another one. I got to admit, though, he has an interesting way of making scary and supernatural movies.
He got a good style about him, how's that?
I mean, I did like Shapes in the Water, and I liked scary...
The Shape of the Water, not Shapes of the Water.
The Shape of the Water. Yeah. And I liked scary stories to tell in the dark.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. A good depiction of the olden days and capturing a generation that's long gone, in a way. And it made me wish I was brought up in that time. Wouldn't you say, Mike?
Yeah. There's something about... every time I see a gothic horror and I see the creepy old mansions with all the nice ornate furniture, hot and cold running ghosts. I don't care about the ghosts so much, but I look at it and say, gee, I'd love to stay in a place like that for a while, like a holiday or something, just get the feeling of it.
I also heard he's working on his latest film project, I think, it may be him. It's sort of more of an anthology movie or TV series. I'm not sure.
Scary bits.
I only heard about it recently. That's just coming out. So hopefully it will be just as good as all his rest of his work.
Oh, I like it. He's very good. And I was halfway through it. Produced by Guillermo, like I said, del Toro. Also, there's some other producers involved. Callum Green, John Jasny, and Thomas Tull. Directed by Guillermo del Toro. Excuse me, I'm breaking a new tongue here. Written by Guillermo del Toro and Matthew Robbins. Now, there was very good actors in this. Some you know, some I've never heard of. No. Anyway, here we go. And this first one, I don't know how to pronounce the name properly, so please forgive me. It's Mia Wasikowska, Wasikowska. Now, she plays Edith Cushing. Jessica Chastain plays Lucille Sharpe. Tom Hiddleston as Thomas Sharpe. I like him. He's a good-looking guy who can play a naughty guy, an evil guy, or he can play a good guy with a touch of evil about him, or a naughty guy with a touch of good stuff about him. He's got that sort of... he's sort of in the middle there, and he does a great job of this role.
Agree.
I won't go through too many of the other people here, because it's mainly centered around those three people. But there's a guy called Charlie Hunnam, plays Dr. Alan McMichael, and a guy called Jim Beaver plays Carter Cushing, which I believe is Edith Cushing's brother, I think. No,
not
Dad.
brother.
That's Dad.
Yeah.
Dad. That's right.
No, I think the doctor is actually a friend to Edith.
That's right.
Who is about her age and is also addicted to the supernatural.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Jim Beaver plays Daddy. Yeah,
not
Dad.
Jimmy. I mean Charlie. Sorry, I forgot.
Anyway, we won't go into too much more. There's a lot of them just like people just running around the peripherals of the movie and the story. So, I don't normally talk about box office too much at this point. Just say, hey, we did so-and-so. But I will talk about it like I normally do. But I'll add a bit to it. It was made for about 55 mil and only made about 74 at the box office. And general consensus is it was marketed as a horror movie, and it wasn't horrific enough just to be a straight horror movie. It's actually a gothic romance horror. So if they marketed it properly, they might have got a lot more people interested in going to the theatre.
I agree.
So maybe it was a lack of actually, on the behalf of the production companies, whatever, distributors, whatever, who actually advertised it. They didn't push it properly.
Oh, this is an interesting thing. Toro.
Del Toro.
El Toro.
Not El Toro, it's El Bull.
All right, sorry.
Del Toro.
Del Toro.
I'll just say Gil.
Was inspired by the following films. The Innocents, which is sort of the...
Another Gothic horror.
It's another Gothic horror that's called the Twist of the Screw.
Turn of the Screw, yeah.
And The Haunting, that was released in 1963. The Exorcist.
The Haunting, that was the original one of Roddy McDowell, I think.
Yeah, and The Exorcist, that was done in 1973.
Yeah,
The Omen, 1976. And The Shining, which is the one that's with Jack Nicholson in it.
Yeah, that was got a lot, Jackie.
So it has... I think he got inspired by those movies, the good ones.
Yeah, the good ones, yeah. Well, you don't get inspired by bad ones, you know.
Yeah, so he was inspired by those haunted movies.
So this one generally, we believe, flew under the radar a bit because it wasn't marketed properly. So that's one of the reasons why we're reviewing it. And also, of course, we think it's quite good. And Mr. Del Toro has done a pretty good job, like he always does.
Yeah, and I also think the reason it was completely unnoticeable was because other movies came out at the same time that either got enough audiences' reactions from or interest.
Well, that's sort of what I said. It wasn't marketed properly. People didn't know it really existed, and the people said, "Oh, we're expecting a horror movie." Didn't get a full-blown horror movie. It's actually a gothic romance drama horror, sort of thing. Yeah. So that the people who went to see it were expecting something else, and the people who would have gone to see it didn't know it existed because it wasn't marketed to them.
Yeah. So let's begin. Shall I?
I can't think of anything else I want to say at the moment. No, carry on. Yes.
So the story begins. Edith, a little kid whose mummy passed away, sadly, croaked.
Sad.
And she's the only child to her father and heir and whatever.
Yeah, this is back in 1887.
Yeah, and one night
York.
she is in bed and she gets a visitation from her long-dead mother. I should mention the ghost apparitions in this movie, they sort of resemble what the dead would look like if they were walking the earth.
Yeah, and a bit grotty.
So it's kind of his interpretation that if we were in purgatory, we are somehow walking the earth in a bit of a ghost-like demon or ghost dead body state. I imagine if we go to heaven, I think our bodies remain intact and that's my theory.
I would like to think we don't. Yeah. Well,
So
it gets a bit grotty, doesn't it?
So if you're you're a dead person, your body is still resembles the dead one inside the grave, is what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, but then maggots eat it and stuff, and,
anyway,
a couple of rats go in and start chewing your ears
her mother
off.
warns her about Crimson Peak.
She doesn't know what it means, because then you're a child at the time.
And she screams, and then we cross to either 21 or 20, or 12 years later, I'm not sure.
Well, 97, about 12 years later, when she's grown up a little bit.
She's all grown up, and she wants to be a writer, and she's got a manuscript, and she takes it to the authors, and the authors are like, we like your story, but we want a bit of a romance in it, sort of thing.
Yeah, they got the thing look down the nose. She's a female writer.
The same could be said for the women in her class who see her, look down upon her, even though she is the daughter of a banker, I should mention, meaning she's just as wealthy as they are. Technically, but they act like, we think that you're just writing for like Jane Austen stuff, but she's actually more into the Mary Shelley stuff when you think about it.
Yeah, I don't think he's a banker. I think he's in big business. He's trying to get big business to invest in his. Yeah.
Anyway, so he's a successful businessman, if you will. Anyway, of course, the publisher tells her, guess what, we don't like your story. We want a romance in it because we think it's good. And this is not only happens in books in general, but in movies. Every time I watch a movie these days, there's no romance. I'm not expecting sex on the walls.
No,
I'm looking at, I would like a connection with the characters with each other.
Well, I'm a bit of a different way. I look at a movie and unfortunately, I believe there's a formula that they use when they sometimes put in movies together.
I agree.
It does matter to me in a negative way because some people put a story together for a movie that, well, we've got to have a slasher movie and we've got to have a dizzy blonde in it, we've got to have some people having sex in it, and they say, as long as we put all those things in the story, we might have a winner.
Yeah. I don't...
No, I'm pointing a point here. Now you go and do a drama or something else. They still say, oh, well, if we do a nice, good drama story and then we throw some love interest in it and something else and blah, blah, a bit of comedy relief over there, they think the formula's going to work. They use the same formulas all the time. It does get a bit old after a while.
Yeah, but I do miss that type of thing that connects it all.
But to me, it's got to be part of the story. Don't just throw it in and hope it lands somewhere. Yeah. To me, it's got to form part of the story.
Exactly.
Sometimes it doesn't. Remember, we did did we review the Velvet Buzzsaw?
Yeah, we did.
Last year.
That was had too many holes.
That had a lot of holes and had some scenes in it which didn't really do anything to add to the movie. And it was all over the place. And like I said, they said, oh, we had some sex in it and some nudity in it and so and blah blah. It should have worked. Well, they didn't do it properly. It wasn't. It didn't cohere. It didn't.
Yeah, I don't know why such movies like Crimson Peak can really connect to the audience, but
it's a good story.
Other movies, not so much.
But it had the continuity. They had believable characters in it.
Yeah, anyway, back to the story. Soon enough, she makes the acquaintance of Thomas Sharpe, who's planning on approaching Edith's dad for money to finance his special clay operation.
He got a digging machine. They had a clay mine at the family home back in England.
Yes.
And he's been going around different cities of the world trying to get investors to help him with
he's been going to Italy,
digging machine.
France, and probably in England somewhere.
And the special digging machine which digs up the clay to make bricks out of something.
Yeah, making bricks.
Yeah, and that way they can actually make some money back at the old home property. And he goes around, he's looking for investors to help finish his machine.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's a risky investment, according to them.
Well, what's his Buglugs' father, Edith, what's his name?
Yeah, Edith's father said it was risky.
He looks at his hands, say, you haven't done a hard day's work in your life, feel mine. I've worked my way up, yeah. So he didn't believe him because he hadn't done the hard yards. There you go.
Anyway, Edith eventually befriends Thomas a little bit behind the scenes, and her dad decides to investigate him. So he sends a detective to dig up, any dirt on Thomas Sharpe. And we do hear, he does get some information, but we find out much later what it's all about.
Exactly.
Anyway, he then, during a dinner party, tells Mr. Sharpe to quit courting my daughter and just pretty much tell everyone that you're just going back to England and don't wish to return anytime soon.
He said, well, Mr. Sharpe had a sister with him as well.
Yeah, Louise.
He had a word to both of them and say, hey, here's a check, take the check and go home.
Yeah.
Don't want to see you again.
And not to make acquaintances with my daughter again.
Yes.
Of course, during the dinner party, he says his goodbyes, and Edith runs up to him, or she runs out of the room, and he chases her, and he tells her how much he dislikes her and how much he thinks her stories are rotten and crappy.
Because Daddy said, make it a nasty breakup so she won't moon over you.
Yeah, she slaps the heck out of him, and then later on, when her dad was at the club, the men's club, he gets brutally murdered.
Very brutal.
Yeah,
Braces sink and everything.
Yeah, practically. And eventually, we go for the funeral, and we find out later that Edith is now wanting to marry Thomas because he's the only person left in her life because she had no mother. I don't know if she has any other relatives that are maybe not living nearby, maybe not.
I don't believe she's got anybody else.
Anyway, I think she's inherited a great deal of money.
All Daddy's money.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, eventually she moves to their home.
In England,
what's it called? I mean, not Crimson. I know it's relevant to the story.
Okay. Allerdale Hall.
Allerdale Hall.
Not very nice.
It's a nice place, but unfortunately, renovations need to be made on it badly.
Severely.
considering that there's a
roof's
hole
caving in and the building's sinking
there's
in
a
the
big
mud.
hole in the roof that allows leaves and snow and the atmosphere outside to come inside. In other words, make the place
Snow,
cold
the
as
wind, the leaves.
making it
possums,
cold and impossible to live in. And anyway, she makes herself at home, and there's not very many servants around. We get the groundskeeper who meets her, and he says that something about that she's been here for a while. Even he was great to make her acquaintance for again. Well, for a while.
And I haven't seen her for a while or something.
For a while.
Yeah.
Even though this is the first meeting.
Yeah, it's funny that. So
Funny.
He says,
Ha, ha.
I haven't seen you for a long time, Mrs. Sharpe.
Yes. What did I tell you? Anyway, Edith makes her rounds around this place, and he's from Louise. Louisa. Louise.
Lucille.
That she.
Think of Lucille Ball.
Lucille is doesn't give her a copy of the keys, which is usually unusual because in those days, when you're married to the head of the household, you give your keys to the mistress of the house.
Yeah, but she actually said that there's a place in here which is dangerous. It says once you get familiar with the place, I'll give you some keys.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
That's what she said. Try and protect her so she doesn't hurt herself. Very caring.
Yeah, she's very unusual. Louise is. She's not one to be messed with. Anyway, Edith makes her rounds around the place. She sees some really strange things like weird ghosts and apparitions. Well, ghosts mainly.
Yeah.
And most of them seem to be very dark and red, like they're covered in blood. Or not blood, it could be something else.
All the skin's falling off too, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So it could be blood,
Yeah. And we find out much later in the story that these women, some of them, are actually long dead partners to Mr. Thomas Sharpe.
Yes, he got a good divorce scheme going.
Yeah, see, she finds some old papers that were inside that was in the basement, and there was this chest, I think, a trunk, which probably belonged to Alona. That was one of the women.
Alona, whatever the last name is.
It means alone backwards. If you watch the new Sherlock Holmes movie that's called Alona Holmes, you understand what I'm talking about. Alona. Enola Holmes. Yes, Enola Holmes, from the movie.
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. So she eventually gets the paperwork, and she also finds some gramophone...
wax cylinders.
Cylinders. And she finds out that they belong to the last lady who lived there, which she was recording, I guess, some of... both herself and her husband's voices on there. She also discovers from those notes that there's been like several marriages, like probably 5 or 4.
Four or 5.
Yeah, each one in different locations around different parts. The places where he was looking for loans but got turned down. Yes.
He uses smooth ways to woo a female whose family had money.
Yeah.
Aha.
We also discovered a long dead baby that we don't know at first who it may have belonged to. Anyway, we then eventually see the ghost of apparition of the long dead one of the wives, and she shows her something that's very weird and creepy, where we see Thomas having sex with his sister. And it turns out that his sister is in love with her brother in the creepiest way.
Well, she was the older sister too, and when they lived an isolated life in that house, and they didn't get any love from their parents, so they sort of love with each other.
Louise Ball, whatever, she's been having an affair, and when see her mother, she's been looking after. Before she died, her mother died, and she then killed her with a meat cleaver.
Yeah, big one. It cut her straight through the middle of the forehead.
Yeah, we saw her appearance, and she was even appeared a couple of times, warning Edith that her son is in danger.
Yeah, funny that, hey?
Funny, huh?
Anyway, so...
Anyway, we then watch Edith try to escape, but then Lucille tosses her over the off one of the stairwells, down to the floor.
Yeah, over a balcony on top of the stairwell, which would have killed the normal person who broke their back or did some serious damage. She didn't get all that damage.
Yeah, see, Lucille was also poisoning Edith. You know, she was the only one.
Yeah, she was poisoning her. Cups of tea, she's putting some sort of berry into it. Yeah,
see, she's been that was what she did with the other girls who were wealthy, who married Thomas. They all gave him money, and from their whatever they disappeared. He doesn't report their disappearances or deaths. In fact, wouldn't you say, Mike?
Well, I presume not. No.
No, they've been laid to rest into the basement.
Yeah.
In the worst way.
Yeah.
And seeing as these women didn't have any family or...
Well, possibly not. We don't know about their backstories, okay?
Yeah,
we presume, okay?
We also find out one of the ladies also owned a dog, and this dog appears throughout this movie. Like, it befriends Edith.
It could have been belonged to the last wife or something or other, yeah.
Yeah, anyway, Thomas soon arrives. He helps Edith out. He even just made his own detective investigation on what Thomas Sharpe and his sister were up to. He found out about the wives from the detective that Edith's father was asking to investigate Sharpe, and we find out about how Thomas and Louise's mother was killed in the bath, and the investigation, I guess, went cold, or there was no witnesses.
No, look, you're reading too much into it, and you're forgetting parts. His sister was sent to a nut house.
Oh yeah, his sister was sent to a nut house,
and he was sent to boarding school.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't know what happened to the police, okay? But it wasn't part of the story, okay?
Yeah.
But she was sent away because they thought she was crazy. They might have thought she might have killed her mummy.
Yeah.
I don't know, okay? Move on.
Yeah, so he's about to take Edith out of there, Louise takes a knife and stabs it into his shoulder, I think it was. Or somewhere into his ribcage.
Under his arm, into his ribcage. Yeah.
Of course, Lucille wants to finish him off, but she leaves this up to her brother, and Thomas is not keen about killing either one of them.
So he whispers in his ear, says, "You're a doctor, tell me where to put it."
Yeah, he asks the doctor, Alan, to point out where to stab him to avoid blood loss and death.
To do less damage.
Yeah, he stabs him, and the man collapses, and he takes him to the basement where I guess he puts his...
To pretend to dump him down there.
Yeah. And Edith is alone with Lucille, who cuts a strand of her hair and ties into a nice little thing.
A little circular little braid.
And
puts it in a drawer with all the other ones.
Yeah, like she's kept a trophy of the previous victim.
I think she's number 5 or number 6. Yeah.
And she plans on her to sign over the deeds of her estate or her money that she inherited to them.
Yeah.
Of course, she signs it, and she takes the pen, which she was gifted to her by her father, and stabs it into Lucille's chest.
Yeah.
Not enough blood, but quite enough to do damage.
That would certainly damage the nib. Yeah.
Yeah. And eventually she runs, tries to get to the elevator, and she runs into Thomas. And first she acts all aggressive, saying, "You bastard! You did all this killing."
Blah, blah, blah.
And we also find out Lucille was actually the one who killed her father. In fact. Edith's father.
She went to the men's room there and killed him.
And killed him.
She was a vicious cow, she was.
Yeah, she was very vicious. Anyway, Thomas then tells her to make her way down to the basement to take her and Alan to safety. And he confronts his sister, and he burns the forms, the contracts into the fire, throws them into the fire, and he tells Lucille that it's over, that they should just go ahead and leave, and so they could all be together. I think that's his big mistake when he said we're all together.
Oops.
Meaning him, Edith, her. What's it tell you?
Lucille. Wait a minute. He wants a threesome? Yeah.
No, she's not willing to share. That's the thing about Lucille. She's not the sharing type. Anyway, she stabs her brother several times, and then she weeps over the dead body. But then again, what do you expect? If you stab someone, you no doubt they're not going to come back.
But before she stabbed me, he threw those papers in the fire.
Well, I already got to that part.
Yeah. So the paperwork wasn't signed over, which is good.
Well, it was signed, but
but it got burnt up.
It got burnt up, so it's not official.
It wasn't official anymore, no.
Anyway, Lucille cries over her brother, and she attempts to try to kill Edith. Eventually, Edith was able to get away from her, gets a knife from the kitchen, and quickly makes her way down to the basement level in order to get Alan and her away. So they quickly climb through a hatch where I guess the red clay gets exported from the basement.
Whatever.
The whole place is a really reddish color, like there's red
it's
clay
red clay,
inside.
Almost a blood color.
Yeah, like a bloody color. I swear it's like blood in.
It's like running around through tomato puree. It's pretty bad.
Yeah. If you're not worried about the ceiling caving in on you, you're worried about the blood.
Our house is actually gradually sinking into the clay too.
Like a swamp.
Yeah.
Anyway, Edith and Louise, they do a bit of a brief fight scene, throughout his equip. He has an interesting machine there that carves up the red clay.
It's the brick making machine.
Yeah, the bricklaying thing.
One he was building
and eventually Edith gets the upper hand, and before she gets the upper hand, we actually see Thomas appear before them
in a ghostly form.
Yeah, very creepy, and eventually Edith gets the upper hand by hitting Lucille with a shovel. Bang, bang, bang.
Yeah.
And eventually she collapses on the ground dead, and Edith approaches Thomas, softly stroking his cheek, and he slowly dissolves into nothing. Yeah. And then Edith and Alan, they go off to the front exit entrance
and seeing some of the villagers coming up. It's a long walk.
Yeah, see, he actually, I wasn't sure how that happened, but eventually I heard in Wikipedia, she eventually writes this story of her experience down, and I imagine it becomes a bestseller.
Yeah, made a lot of money out of it. But my problem right at the end of the movie, the villagers were coming there.
Yeah, I agree.
To save them, I gather.
Yeah.
But how did they know they were in trouble?
I agree with Mike.
No, they didn't have a cell phone back in those days.
And Alan, the doctor, I should mention, he said he was going up there on his own towards the house alone without a horse, I should mention.
He's going to walk up there and...
even though he could have died of frost,
or
could
have got lost in the blizzard.
If you watched The Shining, you get my meaning.
Yeah.
He could have died of frost.
He could have been a snowman. Yeah.
Anyway, that's the story. And I know I jumped ahead here and there, but there's some really interesting scenes that make the story wonderful.
Yeah.
And adds a bit of connections to the past and the present and the future. Yeah. Which is one of the reasons why I like movies with a past, present, and future. It gives you a sense of where everything fits into the story. Wouldn't you say, Mike?
Something along those lines. Yeah, I like continuity. I like form. How's that?
Yeah, it's one of the biggest mistakes in some films that never bother to explain itself properly.
Sometimes some are a bit lacking, a bit shallow on. I mean, okay, if you're going to have a movie that's going to be 2 hours long, you don't want to pad it out with a lot of crap. So. Yeah. Sometimes there's a bit of room for a backstory.
Yeah.
You have to fill it out a little bit. Yeah, but,
as I said in the past, guys, I like data. I cannot make bricks without clay. That's a Sherlock Holmes reference, so you guys know. But that's how I feel about with a movie if it doesn't have all the details right, in different parts of the story. Not all at once, just some of the details bit by bit, and once you, at the end of the movie, you feel like you know the story and know everything fits into place like a puzzle. That's how I see about movies, when you think about it.
Yeah.
Go on, Mike. You were going to say something?
No, I think you covered it quite well then. But whatever. But it's just good script writing, good storytelling, everything else. It's
I also think I think the actress, she also starred in Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland. He's, both the first one and the second one. I think I haven't watched those ones, but I think I would definitely check them out one way or another to make sure I don't skip over Tim Burton's other films.
Yeah.
When you say, Mike?
Yep, exactly. Now, what I just noticed, in my notes here.
Go on.
Benedict Cumberbatch and Emma Stone were originally lined up to play those two roles.
Which roles was Cumberbatch was going to play?
Lucille.
No, I meant is he going to play Dr. Allen, or do you think is he going to play Thomas Sharpe?
Thomas Sharpe.
I can definitely see that. He's got that curly hair look about him, except when he's now playing Dr. whoever he is.
Whatever.
Well, he's playing a superhero now.
Doctor Strange.
That's it.
Whatever you want to do.
That's it.
He's good in those too. Tom Hiddleston took over his role, and Mia Wasikowska took over the role from Emma Stone. They both dropped out. I don't know why they dropped out, but they were lined up for those two roles. Yeah, and that was, I gather, the second time they collaborated on a movie. They were originally in one called Only Lovers Left Alive. I don't know. I haven't seen that movie. I don't know what it is. And Crimson Peak was also the second collaboration between Mia and Miss Chastain. They'd been in Lawless. Now, the original film title was going to be Haunted Peak.
Haunted Peak. Nah, it doesn't roll off the tongue.
No.
Sorry, guys.
But it got changed,
I
obviously.
think Crimson Pink is probably the best way to describe this, because what colour comes out of the floor? It's
red.
A reddish colour.
And really blood.
And crimson is another word for a reddish colour, wouldn't you say?
We know that. I think the people listening to us know what crimson is.
I know, but that's how I see it. And the ghosts are crimson colour.
And they're reddy colour too.
We get a lot of red colours in this movie, if not a lot, just enough to make our blood pump with, with excitement.
Anyway, I've already spoken about why it didn't make a lot of money.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I've already done it.
Oh, yeah, you have.
Okay, I'm not going to go ahead and repeat it.
Yeah.
But this didn't perform well because it wasn't advertised properly, promoted, whatever. So a lot of people who wanted to see it didn't know it. Well, who would have wanted to see it didn't know it really existed because it wasn't marketed to them properly. Yeah. And the people who did go see it were expecting something else, which is a bit of a shame because it's a pretty good movie. The critics loved it in most cases. I mean, medium to liking it quite a bit, and they got good ratings. Well, even here, I mean, one of my favourites here, Rotten Tomatoes gave it 72%, based on 283 reviews. That's a change instead of 10 reviews. It says Crimson Peak offers an engaging diversion driven by delightfully creepy atmosphere and director Del Toro's brilliant knack for unforgettable visuals. So these people liked it. Metacritic gave it a film score of 66 out of 100, indicating generally favourable reviews, etc., etc., etc. Even Stephen King liked it.
Hear that?
Yeah.
Stephen King. That's a good reference.
I won't say his words because he used the F word in here, but he says it's gorgeous and just effing terrifying. Well, it wasn't terrifying, but it was, it had on the end of the seat in some parts, so it was pretty damn good.
I could definitely
So the point is, it was a good movie which got under the radar from lack of proper promotion. How's that? Yeah. I think I've covered it in the nicest possible way instead of saying the studio stuffed it. Anyway,
yeah, I did like the story, and I like the fact that the antagonist, the lady Edith, was a independent writer, is different from ordinary girls who are girly girls back in that period, who are either the ones who are independent in some of those stories, or either a poor Jane Austen spinster type, or, you know, in Edith's case, she had money. She had her father's money to look after her, and I don't know why people ever shrug her off and saying that she's not really well received. I remember one scene in a ballroom scene, some of the ladies were saying nasty things about her. Maybe she just doesn't socialise with them.
See, they don't think she's acting like a lady should, has that?
Yeah.
Now, by the way, just accolades.
Okay.
It was put up for a lot of awards. Was nominated for many of them.
Hooray.
Won 5. It won Best Supporting Actress for Jessica Chastain.
That's cool.
Best Horror Film.
Cool.
That was Golden Trailer Award, or whatever that. Saturn Awards had Best Supporting Actress Jessica Chastain again.
Hooray.
It was nominated for things like costumes, makeup, hairstyling, screenplays, best actors again, best film score, best horror. Yeah, so yeah, it was nominated for a lot of things, and it got it was nominated, got runner-ups, got won a few. So yeah, a lot of people reviewed it and liked it. So yeah, it's a good movie. I think people should watch now. Yeah, I can't. There's nothing more to really say about it. It's a good watch. If you like, how do I put it? A slower, dramatic, supernatural horror drama type thing. That's the type of movie this is. It's not a slasher movie where everyone's running around in ever decreasing circles. It's a good watch.
It's a whodunit, or
it's a bit of a whodunit, but not a whodunit. That's when a detective's involved.
I get it.
Okay.
But every single slasher is sort of like a whodunit, because
who is the naughty guy? Yeah,
exactly.
And we never knew it was the daughter.
Like in Friday the 13th is like a who. The first Friday the 13th started off as a whodunit, and and same I could say for Sleepaway Camp. That was a whodunit.
Well, it wasn't a whodunit. There was a twist at the end saying, "Oh, didn't think that was her or him, whatever." Yeah, that's what it is. But I like a twist.
Me too.
Yeah,
and
it makes it interesting.
And I did think it was interesting that, as it turned out, even though we all know it was Lucille, who was the very tense of the two Sharpes, who turned out to be the
she was
psycho,
nasty, please.
Because she was pretty clearly deranged.
She was cracked
and cracked in the head. And living in her own world without even thinking about how...
Well, she killed Mummy and went to a nut house for 12 years. While brother went away to boarding school and came back to the home or whatever, yada, yada, yada. So, so she came back all better. Not. Anyway.
Deranged still.
Deranged, hello, I'm deranged. And now, here we
go. On.
Availability, eBay, plenty for sale. New and used. Amazon, you can rent it and you can buy it. What else can I say? What else we say about it?
Oh, I should mention, guys, the baby I mentioned earlier in the story is actually Lucille's baby.
Yeah, Thomas and Lucille had a baby.
Yeah.
And obviously, being brother and sister that close, you wouldn't necessarily have a normal child. How's that? So she put that to the way.
That's why, I don't know in any case of whether or not if people ever had children together, if it was a sister and a brother.
The genetic pool's a little bit too close together. I think that's what it is, a gene scare.
I think, whatever causes this sort of mishmash could cause a little bit of problems with with children.
Mental drains, physically
appearance
deformed,
too,
could be anything.
maybe.
So they put it out of its misery. Eventually. Don't know how old it was, but they did. But anyway, irrespective.
Well, from the photo, it looked like it was still a baby.
It was a child, baby, yeah.
But I could never tell if the baby was just asleep or maybe dead. I'm not sure.
Anyway,
it's now time to rate this movie, obviously.
I'm going to give it about a 9 out of 10.
I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10 because I think that the director...
Guillermo.
Yeah,
Guillermo.
He's got something going there. Like
he got magic in his fingers.
He's got his own sense of style and different. From other directors, it's always I'll do it just like everyone else.
Yeah. He looks at it. He gives his own personal touch. How's that?
Yeah, like Tim Burton's touch.
Only exactly
a little
right.
Different.
Like Tim Burton.
Oh, I should mention. Well, actually, you probably already told you this when we were reviewing Scary Stories in the Dark. But he actually got some special prints from the original books that he stole in front of Tim Burton's nose.
Is this what? Sorry.
Oh, the original sketches from the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. They were from the books.
Okay, yeah.
And the director here, he actually bought them at an auction and stole them in front of Tim Burton's nose, not realizing the very big importance those prints would have been.
Oops.
Exactly so.
Fine, okay.
Anyway,
I
do think this movie is worth.
It's a good
peek
watch,
and all that.
Yeah. Look, it's a drama. It's not an action horror. If you're looking for action horror, I'll bypass it. If you don't mind that slightly slow-moving mystery thriller, gothic horror type thing, it's a good watch.
This is how I would like to visualize as I said before, the invitation movie. I just wish that had a little bit more thriller or mystery in the movie to whet my appetite. I just feel like everyone has been very disappointed. I feel like I thought we would have another interesting mainstream movie like this movie here, but we just got in the wrong direction.
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Anyway,
we're not reviewing that movie. We're reviewing this one.
We already reviewed that movie, but I just wish that it could have been like this one. But I guess if I was going to wish for something like that, I would have to ask him, this director, to
make the movie.
Yeah, but unfortunately, it was done by different people. Anyway,
but actually, before you go anywhere,
I'm not going anywhere. I haven't walked. I haven't moved to the chair.
I was going to say he must work very well with his DOPs.
Yes, he does.
For you, uninitiated, that's the cinema guy, the cinematography guy, the camera guy. Yeah? Because, I mean, if he got an idea in his head and he says, hey, camera guy, I want this and do that. And obviously the camera guy's doing it. Yeah. Obviously they make a good team.
Yeah. From what I experienced, guys, it's always good to have a good relationship with a DOP.
Yeah.
It's always good. That way you have, you're on the same page.
A good director of photography can make or break the movie.
Yeah. So that's my belief. Anyway, that's about it for us tonight. It's a short review tonight, as per usual.
Well, it's not short. It's about what it should be.
Anyway.
The other ones are long ones.
So be sure to check it out on Amazon or eBay and let us know in the comments what you guys think of this movie.
Yeah, like I said, it's not an action horror. It's a slow-moving mystery drama, thriller, gothic horror. Yeah, one of those types.
And romance, obviously.
A bit of romance thrown in, but there's less romance. There's a little bit more shenanigans and horror sort of sneaking around and supernatural crap. Yeah, it's really good.
Anyway, that's about it for us tonight, guys. This is Sarah Stephenson.
And Michael.
Saying see you guys around on Boys and Ghouls Film Review. Bye for now.
Bye.